Well, that's it for the Top 20 video countdown back to downtown Julie Brown here in Central Park, because it's John Lennon's birthday, and that's what we're doing. Lots of special stuff on John Lennon. Behind me, you've got the decoder, the one with the American flag flying. John Lennon had like several floors in that building. In fact, one was so high up, he could see us now where we're sitting. So whoever's in there now, you know, better smile because they might be looking at us. Anyway, listen, we've got some more great John Lennon stuff coming your way, so make sure you join us, okay, for a special day. But right now, we've got to go back to the studio. Kurt Loder and the Week in Rock.
Hi, we're Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers.
The Dirty Dogs of rock and roll.
Welcome to the Week in Rock.
This week, we've got a birthday look back at the life and times of John Lennon, a road trip with Robert Plant, and an in-studio visit with blues guitar sensation Jeff Healey. Hi, I'm Kurt Loder. Welcome to the Week in Rock. Well, this is a big birthday weekend for the late John Lennon, who was born in Liverpool on October 9th, 48 years ago. Commemoration of his natal date got underway last weekend in Los Angeles, where Lennon was finally awarded a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And that was only the beginning. Then on Monday came the West Coast premiere of the new Lennon film biography, Imagine, which was unveiled before a celebrity audience at LA's National Theater.
Blown away. That's movie history. Where have you ever seen a husband and wife making love on camera? Oh,
He was my big brother's hero, and then when I finally was old enough to realize what he was talking about, he was mine too.
On Thursday, the movie made its East Coast bow in New York City to a similarly star-spangled response.
Oh, it's so exciting. This is a very special night for me. And I'm so glad that finally a true story of John is here.
It's a brilliant, brilliant tribute. Everybody ought to see it. It's a wonderful piece of work.
As if in cosmic sync with all this good feeling, the only blemish on the Lennon birthday festivities, author Albert Goldman's dubious book, The Lives of John Lennon, drops down a notch to #3 on the New York Times bestseller list this weekend, having failed as yet to make it to the top of the charts. Well, like millions of other people around the world, we here at the Week in Rock all miss John Lennon too. So to commemorate his birthday, we've put together this little biographical bouquet.
Time has not diminished John Lennon's music one little bit. In fact, it seems more important now than it ever did.
Cause a comma's gonna get you. Gonna knock you right in the head.
Well, he was a big influence, you know. I loved his technique, you know. One of my favourites.
And he was a great songwriter. He, you know, the 3-chord, 4-chord song, they're brilliant. The Beatles and his songs are just some of the best songs of all time, obviously.
We were talking about songs, and he said, you know, it's basically what you need to do with a song is say what you mean, put a rhythm to it, and put a backbeat to it, and that's it.
Simple, really easy. Getting things across without having to fumble around writing a book all the time.
John was one hell of a writer, and when you know, if you have someone like that to write with, and then you don't write with him, you miss it, you know, and you'd be a fool to say you didn't.
More than any other band, their music is very evocative. My favourite singles of all time include Strawberry Fields Forever.
Let me take you down, 'cause I'm going to Strawberry Fields.
Strawberry Fields started out by being a very simple song of John's, which was, again, full of his word images. He had a kind of Dali approach to his songwriting. He loved playing with words, and he loved evoking mental images with weird words.
Strawberry fields forever. Strawberry fields forever.
We were, you know, heavily influenced by him. We used to do Helter Skelter live. We used to do, it was never on a record, but we did Come Together, and we did I'm Down, and you know, I know a lot of, especially where Stephen was coming from, a lot of that was the Beatles, you know.
I was a John man.
Why so?
Because of the raspiness of his voice, and he played harmonica.
Happy birthday, John. Now let's catch up with one of Lennon's contemporaries who's still very much on the scene, ex-Led Zeppelin frontman Robert Plant. Plant's been touring the States for the last many months now in support of his hit solo album Now and Zen. And now, after a 2-month break spent back home in England writing songs for his next LP, he and his band have returned to the tour trail here for a final burst of concerts with a decided difference. New staging, new lights, and a whole new mix of Led Zeppelin classics. We tracked Plant down in Dallas this week for a closer look. Wow, what's this? Why, it's Robert Plant. Yes, after a 2-month break, Plant is back for the last leg of his U.S. tour, and he's back with what amounts to a whole new show, including a whole new bunch of Led Zeppelin classics.
Towards the end of July, I was surprised at myself because I was doing things that I didn't even want to do 5 years before or 10 years before, but I was doing things in communication breakdown and going, you silly old bugger. But it sounded great.
So now Plant and his great new 4-piece band are delving deeper into the old Zeppelin catalog than ever before. In fact, they're even going acoustic this time out for a reprise of Going to California.
Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair.
I really liked the song, you know. I remember writing the lyrics in a barn in Worcestershire and thinking one day I can have a coat like Ozzy Osbourne if I do this.
The main emphasis in Plant's show, however, is still on the new material from his Now and Zen LP. And although he's souped up his stage set somewhat, he isn't interested in competing with the high-tech spectacles of such stars as Prince and Michael Jackson.
I can't afford all that crap. Bloody hell. And besides, I think it detracts from the fact that we're staggering around on Cuban heels. I think it's quite funny to see the artist slip and fall.
Obviously, this is a man who's still enjoying himself in the music game, right?
Still enjoyable. Well, I've become a kind of media whore. I'm not really flogging this career of mine. I must be enjoying it.
His audiences certainly are. Plant's current computerized hard rock sound seems to be filling a void in the pop spectrum, although the singer himself doesn't see it as anything particularly fabulous.
I think you'd have to have a terrible ego to think that you were doing anything really that special. I mean, basically, you're a box of chocolates.
The best-selling Now and Zen album and this current tour in support of it don't exactly constitute a comeback for Plant. After all, he's never really been away. But whether critics call it a comeback or just a new career peak, he's happy to be still on the scene and still very, very hot.
Well, every morning's a comeback. You know, I mean, really, for everybody, wherever they've come from, it's like, oh, this is another one then, eh? But I think this is a very vital time, and you've got to do it while you can.
Plant will be bringing his new show to Cincinnati on Monday, Chicago on Tuesday, and the New Haven Coliseum in Connecticut next Friday. And don't forget Plant's old partner, Jimmy Page, is still on tour here, too, with a show that features a different sprinkling of Led Zepp hits, and on drums, Jason Bonham, the late John Bonham's son, who, by the way, has just signed a solo deal with CBS Records to cut an album that he says will be filled with surprise guest players. We'll be back after a quick break with horror master David Cronenberg, blues guitar superstar Jeff Healey, what do you see this guy, and a pretty astonishing student political poll when the Week in Rock continues.
As far as I'm concerned, the two most terrifying words in the English language are president and quail, but...
Welcome back to the Week in Rock. Well, the big non-musical buzz this week was Wednesday night's vice presidential debate between Democrat Lloyd Bentsen and Republican Dan Quayle. In the days just before this earth-shaking event, we hit the streets in search of an informed sampling of college political opinion, quizzing students about who was the better man and which way they were leaning in next month's elections. Here, believe it or not, is what we found out.
Do you know who this is?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
it's me.
Do you know who this man is?
No, I don't.
Do you know who this is? No. No?
That's Joel from Texas. Benson.
Wait, you cannot put this on because I will look like an absolute...
I have personally no idea. I have no idea. No idea.
No?
Quayle. Vice president for, or running for vice president for George Bush.
Do you know who this man is?
No, I don't.
John That's Forsythe. Lloyd Benson. No, it's Lloyd Benson. Lloyd Benson. Lloyd Benson. Looks familiar, but no.
Looks very familiar. Can he be one of the newscasters on TV?
That's Robert Redford. Dan Quayle. Dan Quayle.
Don't believe the hype.
I think he's hot. Nice looking guy.
A young hotshot trying to do something, and it's about time to get somebody young in there.
I think he's a bit too young. You know, I think he just wants the power.
I think Dan Quayle is ridiculous. Anybody who would vote to have Dan Quayle as our vice president is ridiculous. Quayle's good for a change. He seems like, you know, he'd be on a remake of Leave It to Beaver.
Don't believe the hype.
Just from his face, he seems like grandpa type.
Lloyd Benson's a little bit too old.
Looks like grandpa.
A real middle-of-the-road type person. I would trust Benson a little bit more because I do think he's had more experience.
I would not judge either of the candidates on anything that I see on television.
It's all like a show. You know, who looks better on TV.
I've talked to a lot of people who don't know who the hell's running for president, and that depresses me because I thought I'd get away from that when I went to college.
Scary stuff, huh? Almost as scary as the films of Canadian director David Cronenberg. For the last 13 years, Cronenberg has been bringing his brilliant vision of biological horror to the screen in such cult classics as Scanners, Videodrome, The Fly, and now Dead Ringers. Cronenberg's latest is a departure from the gore of yore, but it's still a supremely creepy film. Here's a look at the movie and the remarkable man behind it.
Thought I'd seen some creepy things go on in the movie business, but I really have to say that this is the most disgusting thing that's ever happened to me.
That seems to be a common reaction to the films of David Cronenberg.
Oh my God!
David Cronenberg has built a considerable mystique out of his fascination with physical horror. Exploding heads, mutant bodies, and hideous insect transformations have been the norm in the director's previous pictures. But his latest, Dead Ringers, is something different.
It will be a departure in the sense that it will be perceived as a so-called realistic drama, whereas my other films have tended to be categorized as horror or science fiction. It would be a mistake for people to think of this film as a horror film. It just simply isn't.
In Dead Ringers, actor Jeremy Irons has the challenging task of portraying twin gynecologists at a Toronto fertility clinic. Loosely based on a true story, the script, says Cronenberg, was a difficult sell to the studios.
I was surprised to find that people were intrigued by the idea of twins, but repelled by the idea of gynecology in general. And in fact, that more than once I had someone at a studio say, well, yeah, but do they have to be gynecologists? I mean, couldn't they be lawyers?
But I gave you to my baby brother because you weren't very good. Oh, God, no. Oh, Claire, let me explain.
You absolute shit.
A huge part of the film has to do with the relationships between men and women and the particular strange approach to that subject matter that the twins take.
The actress in Dead Ringers is played by Geneviève Bujold, whose love for one of the twins creates the first rift between them, a development with disastrous consequences.
Well, I'm always interested in characters who are so obsessive and so inventive that it pushes them out of shape and pushes them slightly to the outer fringes of society.
They look all right on the outside, but their insides are deformed. Radical technology was required.
With Dead Ringers, David Cronenberg's horrific art has reached a new and more refined peak. It's a picture of which he seems particularly proud.
And even in a scene that is very horrific in my films, there's always an inventiveness, I hope, that it's not something that my audience would ever see in any other film.
Okay, Dead Ringers, a movie unlike any other. It's got a great performance by Jeremy Irons, and despite the lack of gore, it's a really, really scary film. Speaking of really scary, what do you hear these guys who are in-studio guests? They're from Toronto. They've got a debut album called See the Light, which I think you may want to go out and pick up any moment now. And Mr. Tom Stephen on drums, Mr. Joe Rockman on bass, and the centerpiece of the act, Mr. Jeff Healey. This is the Jeff Healey Band. Jeff, before you get around to doing what it is you do, which is pretty remarkable, I wonder if you could explain how you do it. Maybe talk about your style a little bit of playing. playing?
Well, I guess as people can see at the moment, I hold the guitar flat on my lap and use all 5 fingers at any given time of the left hand for chords and leads and so forth. But aside from that, you know, playing is playing, really. It's, I mean, no matter how you hold it, even if you hold it somewhere between your feet, as long as you can get a sound out of it is the main thing.
Is this a function of, I know you had lost your sight at the age of 1, was this a function of that? You just sort of picked it up?
I don't think so. I have no idea, because I never played when I could see, so I have no idea, you know. It's just one of those things that happened, and here we are.
Okay, well, what song are you going to do for us here?
We're going to do a tune from our album, which was written by John Hyatt, which is our newest video, and it's a tune called Confidence Man. I'd like to do that.
Okay, well, hold on. You've never seen anything like this. Mr. Jeff Healey and Jeff Healey Band. Hit it.
Well, I lost you at the border when you crossed it. Had your number, baby, but I lost it. I know your love was just a thin bad, but you can't put a word over me. I'm a confidence man. Now I can talk old ladies out of all of their money. I can talk young girls that calling me honey. You can talk all you want, child, but I got things first. Don't give a soft touch now, but I'm a confidence man. I know your mama taught you how to bake a cherry pie and beat a bug, but daddy taught you how to tell a lie, and I get you. Let me tell you something, baby, you better learn. You're gonna call man, you're liable to get mine. Stretched out on the floor, baby, so elastic, but it stretched the damn thing too tight to snap like plastic. And the pieces went flying across the bedland. No discouraging word could be heard, 'cause I'm a confidence man. Now, baby, Chicago is a where you're bound, 'cause love is a cheap perfume and hangs around. You're gonna die. Now let the birds stand there. 'Cause you can't pull the world over me. I'm a confidence man. So you can't pull the world over me. I'm a confidence man. Can't pull the world over me. I'm a confidence man.
Hi, and welcome back to the Week in Rock. Have you seen this poster or this T-shirt? Both are the work of LA-based guerrilla artist Robbie Canal, I think it is. Although his roots are in fine art, Canal is becoming famous or notorious for the savagely satirical work that he calls adversarial portraiture. And what exactly is that, you ask? Let's take a closer look.
Hi, I'm Robbie Canal. I'm an artist. I want you to meet 2 of my favorite people. My people. People I love to hate. People I love to paint. I would describe it as art that's political rather than political art. You know, specifically my art does have a subject that is about, a lot of it's about the two-party system. I want to make a more public art about things that are important to more people. And that's what I call political art.
In the night, in the night, in the night, mama, in the night, in the wee hours between midnight and day.
Usually we put up 50 in one shot, and then it's time to either reload or I think people can happily do 2 hours. My purpose in putting them up on the streets is to make a little surprise for people in the morning and, engender some kind of thought about issues that I think are important. If people see it tomorrow morning, that's enough of a life for it. Politics is everywhere, and painters make art about what they think is important, and I happen to think that whether it's Jim and Tammy and their constituency or Ronnie and Nancy and theirs, people who hold power should be responsible for the way they exercise it. You know, I read 3 papers a day, and I read all the weekly news weeklies and stuff. You know, I just take in all this information about current events, and whenever I find something that really burns me up, I see if I can make a picture about it. Circus of Power is good for George and the debates. Maybe we'll put one right up over Circus of Power. The guerrilla agit-prop aspect of it is partially a shock tactic. If you're not expecting a message somewhere, it's going to be more arresting, and hopefully I don't get arrested in the process. The issues are urgent enough to demand this minor form of civil disobedience, you know, and also hopefully I'm entertaining people a little bit.
Robbie Canal. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Los Angeles, some 900 headbanging musicians and fans gathered last weekend for what was touted as the world's first heavy metal convention. The timing seemed right, with Guns N' Roses still at #1 on the charts and aggressive acts like Def Leppard, Metallica, and Poison joining them in the top 20. Metal music seems to be bigger than ever. But as we found out at this convention, a lot of metalheads still feel underappreciated, unwanted, and, well, unloved.
Headbangers don't get enough coverage.
Assembled here, the most disgusting group of degrading, rock and roll, filthy animals, sweaty. We don't care, man.
And watch our video. Check it out.
Could you imagine the whole world just filled with REO Speedwagon records? That's it?
The people on the other side of the fence don't understand metal in the first place. They think we're all derelicts that, you know, can't hold down a job. I mean, I have a job. It's called recording and touring.
Well put. And where did all this metal madness get started? Who fathered this uproarious genre? Was it The Who, The Stooges, The Kingsmen? We asked some people in the street this week, and here are a few of their best guesses.
The first heavy metal band? Probably Black Sabbath.
I don't know, the Kinks, I think, were the first band to play with distortion, and You Really Got Me. That was kind of a metal song.
You mean like headbangers?
Let's just say Black Flag, okay? Black Flag's the one that actually came all the way hard out and did it in balls out metal. Didn't care what anybody thought, played it loud, played it nasty, played what everybody didn't want to hear, and they still sold records.
The first heavy metal band, the Stooges.
MC5.
AC/DC. Probably Kiss.
Alice Cooper.
About Metallica. Led Zeppelin?
Led Zeppelin.
Zeppelin was the personification of the guitar god. As opposed to the drum king just banging away. Bam, 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 right into your face.
Oh, what about this Peter, Paul, and Mary shirt?
Oh, they're good too.
Okay, that does about do it for this edition of The Week in Rock. We'll be back next week with Was Not Was, Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers, and the return of Toby Radloff, Genuine Nerd. Right now, we're going to leave you with some more blues pyrotechnics by the incredible Jeff Healey Band. See you next week.
shining in my eyes.